Time to begin Canto 24, Paradiso. Oh, that means a lot. O fellowship that has been chosen for the blessed Lamb's great supper, where he feeds you so as to always fill your need. Since by the grace of God, this man receives foretaste of something fallen from your table before death has assigned his time its limit. Direct your mind to his immense desire. Quench him somewhat, you who forever drink from that source which his thought and longing seek. So Beatrice and these delighted souls formed companies of spheres around fixed poles, flaming as they revolved, as comets glow. And just as, in a clock's machinery, to one who watches them, the wheels turn so that, while the first wheel seems to rest, the last wheel flies. So did those circling dancers, as they danced to different measures, swift and slow, make me a judge of what their riches were. From that sphere, which I noted as most precious, I saw a flame come forth with so much gladness that none of it left behind had greater brightness. That flame whirled 3 times round Beatrice, while singing so divine a song that my imagination cannot shape it for me. My pen leaps over it. I do not write. Our fantasy, and all the more so, speech, far too gross for painting folds so deep. Oh, you pray to us with such devotion. My holy sister, with your warm affection, you have released me from that lovely sphere. So after he had stopped his motion, did the blessed flame breathe forth unto my lady, and what he said I have reported here. She answered, O eternal light, of that great man, to whom our Lord bequeathed the keys of this astonishing gladness, the keys, ye bore to earth, do test this man concerning the faith by which you walked upon the sea. Ask him points, light and grave, just as you please. That he loves well, and hopes well, and has faith is not concealed from you. You see that place where everything that happens is displayed. But since this realm has gained its citizens through the true faith, it rightly falls to him to speak of faith, just that he may glorify it. Just as the bachelor candidate must arm himself, does not speak until the master submits the question for discussion, not for settlement. So while she spoke, I armed myself with all my questions, preparing for such a questioner and such professing. Hey, he's learning. Doesn't have to get somebody to poke him, prod him to ask a question. On hearing that light breathe, good Christian, speak. Show yourself clearly. What is faith? I raised my brow, then turned to Beatrice, whose gaze immediately signaled to me to let the waters of my inner source pour forth. Then I, so may the grace that grants to me to make the confession to Chief Centurion permit my thoughts to find their fit expression. Followed. Father, as the truthful pen of your dear brother wrote, that brother who, with you, set Rome upon the righteous road, faith is the substance of the things we hope for, and is the evidence of things not seen. And this I take to be its quiddity. And then I heard, you understand precisely. That is fully clear to you why he has first placed faith among the substances and then defines it as evidence. I next. The deep things that on me bestow their image here are hid from sight below, so that their being lies in faith alone. And on that faith the highest hope is founded, and thus it is that faith is called the substance. And it is from that faith that we must reason, deducing what we can form syllogisms without our being able to see more. Thus faith is also called an evidence. And then I heard, if all one learns below... wrong window. If all one learns below as doctrine were so understood, there'd be no place for this sophist cleverness. This speech was breathed from that enkindled love, he added. Now this coin is well examined, and now we know its alloy and its weight. But tell me, do you have it in your purse? And indeed I do, so bright and round that nothing in its stamp leads me to doubt. Next, from the deep light gleaming there, I heard, what is the origin of the dear gem that comes to you, the gem on which all virtues are founded? The Holy Ghost's abundant rain poured upon the parchments old and new. That is the syllogism that is proved with such persuasiveness that faith has truth. And set beside that argument, all other demonstrations seem to me obtuse. I heard the premises of old and new impelling your conclusion. Why do you hold these to be the speech of God? And the proof revealing truth to me relies on acts that happened. For such miracles, nature can heat no iron, beat no anvil. Say, who assures you that those works are real? Came the reply. The very thing that needs proof. Nothing else attests these works to you. I said, if without miracles the world was turned to Christianity, that is so great a miracle that all the rest are not its 100th part. For you were poor and hungry when you found the field and sowed the good plant, once a vine, now a thorn. This done, the high and holy court resounded throughout its spheres with Te Deum Laudamus, sung with the melody they use on high. And he who examined me, that Baron who led me on from branch to branch, so that we now were drawing close to the last leaves, began again. That grace which lovingly directs your mind, until this point hath taught you how to find the seemly words for thought. That I do approve what you brought forth, but now you must declare what you believe, and what gave you the faith that you receive. O Holy Father, soul who now can see what you believed with such intensity that to his tomb you outran younger feet. And they began. You would have me tell plainly the form of my unhesitating faith, and also ask me to declare its source. I answer, I believe in one God, so eternal, he who, motionless, moves all the heavens with his love and love for him. For this belief, I have not only proofs both physical and metaphysical, but also have the truth that here rains down through Moses and the prophets and the Psalms, and through the Gospels, and through you who wrote words given to you by the Holy Ghost. I believe in 3 eternal persons, and these I do believe to be one essence, so single and threefold as to allow both is and are. Of this profound condition of God that I have touched upon, gospel teaching has often set the imprint on my mind. This is the origin. This is the spark. That then extends into a vivid flame, and, like a star in heaven, glows in me. Just as the Lord who listens to his servant's announcement, then, as soon as he is silent, embraces him, both glad with the good news. So did the apostolic light at whose command I had replied, while blessing me and singing, then encircled me 3 times. The speech I had spoke brought them such delight. Guess I can't really complain about the Christian poem being too Christian. It's what I signed up for. 14th century was built different. Was it 14th century or 1400s? I forget. Canto 25, Paradiso. If it should happen, if this sacred poem, this work so shared by heaven and by earth, that it has made me lean through these long years, can overcome the cruelty that bars from the fair fold where I slept. A lamb opposed to wolves then wore on it. I then, with other voice, with other fleece, shall return as poet and put on at my baptismal font the laurel crown. For there I first found entry to that faith, which makes souls welcome unto God, and then, for that faith, Peter garlanded my brow. Then did a light move towards us from that sphere from which emerged the first, the dear, the rare, of those whom Christ had left to be his vicars. And full of happiness, my lady said to me, Look, look, and see the Baron whom, below on earth, they visit in Galicia. As when a dove alights near its companion, and each unto the other murmuring and circling, other offers his affection. So did I see both those great and glorious princes give greeting to each other, praising the banquet that is offered them on high. But when their salutations were complete, each stopped in silence around me, and each was so aflame my vision felt defeat. Then Beatrice said, smiling, Famous life, by whom the generosity of our basilica has been described, do let matters of my hope re-echo at this height. You can, for every time that Jesus favored you three above the rest, you were the figure of hope. Lift up your head, and be assured whatever comes here from the mortal world has to be ripened in our radiance. The second fire offered me this comfort, at which my eyes were lifted to the mountains of whose weight of light before had kept me bent. Because our Emperor, out of his grace, has willed that to you, for your death, may face his nobles in the inmost of his halls, so that when you have seen this court in truth, hope, which below spurs love of the true good, in you and others may be comforted. Do tell what hope is. Tell how it has blossomed within your mind, and from what source it came to you. So did the second flame continue. And she, compassionate, who was the guide who led my feathered wings to such high flight, did thus anticipate my own reply. There is no child of the church militant who has more hope than he has, as is written within the sun whose rays reach all our ranks. Thus it is granted him to come from Egypt into Jerusalem, that he have vision of it before his term of warring ends. The other 2 points of your question, which were not asked so that you may know, but that he may report how much you prize this virtue, I leave to him. You will not find them hard or cause for arrogance, as you have asked. Let him reply, and God's grace help this task. As a disciple answering his master, prepared and willing in what he knows well, his proficiency may be revealed. I said it. Hope is the certain expectation of future glory. It is the result of God's grace and of merit we have earned. This light had come to me from many stars, but he who first instilled it in my heart was the chief singer of the sovereign guide. May those, he said within his deity, you who know your name, put hope in you, and if one has my faith, can he not know God's name? And just as he instilled, you then instilled with your epistle, that I am full, and rain again your rain on other souls. While I was speaking, in the living heart of that soul flame, there came a trembling flash, sudden, repeated, just as lightning cracks. Then it breathed forth. The love with which I still burn for the virtue that was mine till the palm in my departure from the field, would have me breathe again to you who take such joy in hope, and I should welcome words that tell what hope had promised unto you. And I, the new and ancient scriptures sent the mark for souls whom God befriends. For me, that mark means what is promised us by hope. Isaiah says that all of the elect shall wear a double garment in their land, and all their land in this sweet life of the blessed. And where your brother treats of those white robes, he has with words direct and evident, made clear to us Isaiah's revelation. I'll get that hydrate after the canto. Hey Tayazu, good to see you. At first, as soon as I finished speaking, Serpentine was heard above us, all the circling garlands answering this call. And then, among those souls, one light became so bright, if the crab had one such crystal, winter would have a month of one long day. And as a happy maiden rises and enters the dance to honor the new bride, and not through vanity or other failing, so did I see that splendor, brightening, approach those two flames dancing in a ring to music suited to their brimming love, burning love. And there it joined in the singing and the circling on which my lady kept her eyes intent, just like a bride, silent and motionless. This soul is he who lay upon the breast of Christ our pelican. And he was asked from on the cross to serve in the great task. Pelican? Huh? I mean, that's what it says in Italian. I've never heard Christ being called a pelican before. That's a new one. So spoke my lady, but her gaze was not to be diverted from its steadfastness, not after or before her words were said. Even as he who squints and strains to see the sun somewhat eclipsed, and, as he tries to see, becomes sightless, so did I, or just so did I in my attempt to watch the latest flame, till these words were said. Why do you daze yourself to see what here can have no place? On earth my body now is earth, and I shall be there together with the rest until our number equals the eternal purpose. Only those two lights that ascended wear their double garment in this blessed cloister, and carry this report back to your world. When he began to speak, the flaming circle had stopped its dance. So too its song had ceased, that gentle mingling of their threefold breath. Even as when, avoiding danger, simply to rest, the oars that strike the water together halt when rowers hear their whistle. Ah, how disturbed I was within my mind, when I turned round to look at Beatrice, and finding that I could not see, though I was close to her, and in that world of gladness. Alright, let me get that hydrant for you. How's all y'all's day been so far? Mine has been rough. Alright. Hydrate's all good. Ready to go. Canto 26, Paradiso. While I, with blinded eyes, was apprehensive from that bright flame which had consumed my vision, there breathed a voice that centered my attention, saying, "Till you have retrieved the power of sight, which you consumed in me, it would be best to compensate by colloquy. Then do begin. Declare the aim on which your soul is set. Be assured of this. Your vision, though confounded, is not dead, because the woman who conducts you through this godly region has within her gaze and force the hand of Ananias had. That force the hand of Ananias had. And I said, as pleases her, may solace, sooner or later, reach these eyes, her gates when she brought me the fire with which I always burn. The good with which this court is satisfied is alpha and omega of all writings that love has, loud or low, read out to me. was the very voice that had dispelled the fear I felt at sudden dazzlement, that now with further words made me concerned to speak again. He said, "You certainly must sift with a still finer sieve. Must tell who must tell who led your bow to aim at such a target. Oh, bow. Must tell who led your bow to aim at such a target." And I, by philosophic arguments and my authority whose sources here, that love must be imprinted in me, for the good, once it is understood as such, enkindles love, and in accord with more goodness comes greater love, and thus the mind of anyone who can discern the truth on which this proof is founded must be moved to love, more than it loves all else, that essence which is preeminent, since any good that lies outside of it is nothing but a ray reflected from its radiance. My mind discerns this truth, and made plain by him, who demonstrates to me that the first love of the eternal beings is their Maker. The voice of the true author states this, too, where he tells Moses, speaking of himself, "I shall show you all goodness." You reveal this, too, when you begin your high evangel, which more than any other proclamation cries out to earth the mystery of heaven. I heard, through human reasoning and through authorities according with it, you conclude your highest love is bent on God. But tell me, too, if you feel other chords draw you to him, so that you voice aloud all of the teeth by which this love grips you. The holy intent of Christ's eagle was not hidden, and I indeed was made aware of what he would most have my words declare. And thus I began again. My charity results from all those things whose might can bring the heart to turn to God, the world's existence and mine, the death that he sustained, that I might live, and that which is the hope of all believers, as is my hope, together with living knowledge I have spoken of. These drew me from the sea of twisted love and set me on the shore of the right love. The leaves in leavening all the garden of the everlasting gardener. The leaves in leaving all the garden of the everlasting gardener, the love according to the good he gave to them. As soon I was still, the song most sweet resounded through that heaven, and my lady said with the others, "Holy, holy, holy." And just as a sharp light will startle us from sleep because of the spirit of eyesight races to meet the brightness that proceeds from layer to layer in the eye, and he who wakens is confused by what he sees, awakening suddenly, knowing nothing until judgment helps him. Even so did Beatrice dispel, with her eyes' rays, which shone more than 1,000 miles. Oh, Beatrice got laser eyes. The chaff from my eyes. I saw better than I had before. As if stupefied, I asked about the fourth light that I saw among us. Beatrice has those LASIK eyes. Involuntary surgery. My lady answered, "In those rays there gazes with love for his creator the first soul ever created by the primal force. As does a tree that bends its crown because of winds that gust, and then springs up, raised by its own sustaining power, so did I while she was speaking. I, bewildered, then restored to confidence by that desire to speak with which I was inflamed, began. O fruit that was the only one to be brought forth already ripe, O ancient father, to whom each bride is as a daughter and daughter-in-law, devoutly as I can, I do beseech you, speak with me. You see my wish, to hear you sooner, I do not declare it. And the primal soul, much as an animal beneath a cover stirs so that its feelings are made evident. When what enfolds it follows all its movements showed me, through that which covered him, with what rejoicing he was coming to delight me. And then he breathed forth, "Though you do not declare your wish, I can perceive it better than you can. I can perceive it better than you can perceive the things you hold most certain. For I can see it in the truthful mirror that perfectly reflects all else, while nothing can reflect the mirror perfectly. You wish to hear how long it is since I was placed by God in that high garden where this lady readied you to climb a stair. So long, and just how long it pleased my eyes, and this true cause of the great anger, and what idiom I used and shaped. My son, the cause of my long exile did not lie within the act of tasting of the tree, but solely in my trespass of the boundary. During 4,302 returnings of the sun, while I was sent in that place from which your lady sent you Virgil, I longed for this assembly. While on earth, I saw the sun return to all the lights along the way 930 times. Tongue I spoke was all extinct before the men of Nimrod set their minds upon the unaccomplishable task, for never has anything produced by human reason been everlasting. Following the heavens, men seek the new. They shift their predilections. That man should speak at all in is nature's act. But how you speak, in this tongue, or in that, she leaves to you and to your preference. Before I was set down to hell's torments on earth, the greatest good from which derives the joy that now enfolds me was called I. And then he was called El. Such change must be. The ways that mortals take are as the leaves upon a branch. One comes, another goes. On that peak rising highest from the sea, my life, first pure, then tainted, lasted from the first hour to the hour that follows on the sixth, when the sun shifts to a new quadrant. I can't believe Dante only thinks the world is 4,000 years old. Dante seems like a man of study, but he is a devout Christian through and through. All right. Canto 27, Paradiso. Unto the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, glory. All paradise began, so that the sweetness of the singing held me rapt. What I saw seemed to me to be a smile. The universe had smiled. My rapture had entered by way of hearing and of sight. Oh joy! Oh gladness! Words can never speak. O life perfected by both love and peace. O richness so assured that knows no longing. Before my eyes there stood a flame, the 4 torches, and that which had been the first to come began to glow with greater radiance. And what its image then became was like what Jupiter's would be if Mars and he were birds and had exchanged their plumages. After Providence that there assigns to every office its appointed time had, to those holy choirs, on every side commanded silence. I then heard, "If I change color, do not be amazed, for as I speak, you will see change in all these flames. He who on earth usurps my place that is in the sight of God's own Son is vacant now, has made my burial ground a sewer of blood, a sewer of stench. so that the perverse one who fell from heaven here above can find contentment there below. But then I saw all the heaven colored by the hue that paints the clouds at morning and at evening, with the sun confronting them. And like a woman who, although secure in her own honesty, will pale on even hearing about another woman's failing, just so did Beatrice change in appearance, and I believe that such eclipse was in the sky when he, the highest power, suffered. Then his words followed with a voice so altered from what it was displayed before, or from what it was before. Even his likeness did not display a greater change than that. The bride of Christ was never nurtured by my blood, and blood of Linus and of Cletus to be employed in gaining greater riches, but to acquire this life of joyousness. Sixtus and Pius, Urban and Calixtus, after so much lamentation, shed their blood. Weird how they noticed it since Inferno, but this translator really likes to, quote-unquote, translate the names. It's not Cleto, it's not Cletus, it's Cleto. Cleto. It's not Lin, it's Linus. So, a weird choice to make. We did not want one portion of Christ's people to sit at the right side of our successors, while on our left the other portion sat. Nor did we want the keys that were consigned to me to serve as an escuch. Oh man, this is the first English word that I'm having trouble on. Escutcheon. I think it's escutcheon, on a banner that waged war against the baptized. Nor would we want my form upon a seal for trafficking in lying privileges, for which I often blush and flash with anger. From here on high, one seeks rapacious wolves, clothed in the cloaks of the shepherds. You, the vengeance of God. Oh, why do you still lie concealed? The Gascons and the Cahorsigns, they both prepared to drink our blood, a good beginning to what a miserable end you'll fall. That high providence which one preserved, Scipio, glory of the world, for Rome, will soon bring help as I conceive. And you, my son, who through your mortal weight will yet return below, speak plainly there, and do not hide that which I do not hide. As from the horn of heaven's goat aboots the sun, our sky flicks frozen vapors downward, so that I see that ether there adorned. Either or ether. For from that sphere, triumphant vapors now were flaking up to the Empyrean, returning after dwelling here with us. My sight was following their semblances, until the space between us grew so great as to deny my eyes all further reach. At this, my lady, seeing me set free from gazing upwards, told me, "Let your eyes look down and see how far you have revolved." I saw that, from the time when I looked down before, I had traversed all of the arc of the first climb, from its midpoint to end. So that beyond Cadix, I saw Ulysses, mad course. To the east, I can almost see the shoreline where Europa was sweet burden. I should have seen more of this threshing floor, but for the motion of the sun beneath my feet, it was a sign, and more away. My mind enraptured, always longing for my lady gallantly, burning more than ever for my eyes to turn to her. And if, by means of human flesh or portraits, nature or art has fashioned lures to draw the eye so as to grip the mind. All these would seem nothing if set beside the godly beauty that shone upon me when I turned to see the smiling face of Beatrice. The powers that her gaze now granted me drew me out of the lovely nest of Leda and thrust me into heaven's swiftest sphere. Its parts were all so equally alive and excellent that I cannot say which place Beatrice selected for my entry, but she who saw what my desire was. Her smile had so much gladness that within her face there seemed to be God's joy again. The nature of the universe, which holds the center and moves all else around it, begins here, as if from its turning post. This heaven has no other where than this, the mind of God, in which are kindled both the love that it turns and the force it reigns. As in a circle, light and love enclose it, as it surrounds the rest, and then closing, only he who encloses understands. No other heaven measures the sphere's motion, but it serves as the measure for the rest, even as half and fifth determine 10. Now it can be evident to you how time has roots within this vessel, and within the other vessels as its leaves. O greediness, you who within your depths cause mortals to sink so that none is left able to lift his eyes above your waves. The will has a good blossoming in men. Then the never-ending downpours turn the sound plums into rotten, empty skins. For innocence and trust are to be found only in little children. They flee even before a full beard cloaks the cheeks. One, for as long as he still lisps, fast. But when his tongue is free at last, he gorges, devouring any food through any month. And one, while he still lisps, will love and heed his mother, but when he acquires speech more fully, he will long to see her buried. Just so, when white skin turns black when it is struck by direct light, the lovely daughter of the one who brings us dawn and leaves us evening. Let you not be amazed at what I say. Consider this. On earth no king holds sway. Therefore, the family of humans strays. But well before 1,000 years have passed, January is unwintered by the day's 100th part, which they neglect below. This high sphere shall shine so that Providence, long waited for, will turn to the sterns to where the prows now are, so that the fleet run straight, and then the fine fruit shall follow on the flower. Got some good alliteration going. Sorry, just stretching out a little bit. Canto 28, Paradiso. After the lady who in paradises my mind disclosed the truth, it is unlike the present life of miserable mortals. Then, just as one who sees a mirrored flame, its double candle stands behind its back. Even before he thought of it, or gazed directly at it, and he turns to gauge if that glass tells the truth to him, and sees that it accords like voice and instrument. So does my memory recall. I did, after I looked into the lovely eyes of whose love made the noose that holds me tight. And when I turned, my own eyes were met what appears within that sphere whenever one looks intently at its revolution. I saw a point set forth so acute a light that anyone who faced the forth with which it blazed would have to shut his eyes. and any star that, seen from Earth, seemed to be the smallest, set beside that point as a star conjoined with star, would seem a moon. Around that point a ring of fire wheeled, a ring perhaps as far from that point as a halo of the star that colors it. The mist that forms the halo is most thick. It wheeled so quickly that it would outstrip the motion that most swiftly girds the world. That ring was circled by a second ring, and the second by a third, third by a fourth, fourth by a fifth, fifth by a sixth. Beyond the seventh ring which followed was so wide that all of Juno's messenger would be too narrow to contain that circle. The eighth and ninth were wider still, and each, even as greater distance lay between it and the first ring, moved with lesser speed. And I believe the ring with the clearest flame was that which lay least far from the pure spark, because it shares most deeply that point's truth. My lady, who saw my perplexity, I was in such suspense, said, On that point depend the heavens and the whole of nature. Look at the circle that is nearest it, and know, its revolutions are so swift because of burning love that urges it. And I to her, if Earth and the 9 spheres were ordered like those rings, then I would be content with what you have set out before me. But in the world of sense, what one can see are spheres becoming ever more divine as they are set more distant from the center. Thus, if my longing is to gain its end, in this amazing and angelic temple that has as boundaries only love and light, then I still have to hear just how the model and copy do not share in one same plan, for by myself I think on this in vain. You need not wonder if your fingers are unable to undo that knot. No one has tried, and so that knot is tightened, taut, my lady said. Continued, if you would be satisfied, take what I tell you, and let your mind be sharp as I explain. The size of spheres of matter, large or small, depends upon the power, more and less, that spreads throughout their parts. More excellence yields greater blessedness. More blessedness must comprehend a greater body when that body's parts are equally complete. And thus the sphere, which sweeps along with it all the rest of all the universe, must match the circle that loves most and knows the most, so that, if you but draw your measure round the power within, and not the semblance of the angels that appear to you as circles, you will discern a wonderful accord between each sphere and its intelligence. Greater accords with more, smaller with less. Just as the hemisphere of air remains splendid, serene, and from his gentler cheek, Boreas blows and clears the scoriate, dissolves the mist that had defaced the sky so that the heavens smile with loveliness in all their regions. Even so did I become after my lady had supplied her clever response to me, and, like a star in heaven, truth was seen. And when her words were done, even as incandescent iron will shower sparks, so did those circles sparkle, and each spark circled with its flaming ring. Sparks that were more in number than the sum one reaches, doubling in succession each square on a chessboard, 1 to 64. I heard Hosanna sung from choir to choir, to that fixed point which holds and always shall hold them to where they have forever been. And she who saw my mind's perplexity said, The first circles have displayed to you the seraphim and the cherubim. They follow the ties of love with such rapidity because they are as like the point as creatures can be, the power dependent on their vision. Those other loves that circle round them are called thrones of the divine aspect, because they terminate the first group of 3, and know that all delight to the degree to which their vision sees, more or less deeply, that truth in which all intellects find rest. From this you see that blessedness dependent upon the act of vision, not upon the act of love, which is the consequence. The measure of their vision lies in merit, produced by grace, and then by will to goodness. And this is the progression, step by step. The second triad, blossoming in this eternal springtime that nightly ram does not despoil, perpetually sings. Hosanna with three melodies that sound in three ranks of bliss that form this triad. Within this hierarchy there are three kinds of divinities. First, the dominions, and then the virtues, and the final order contains the powers. The two penultimate groups rejoicing ones within the next triad are wheeling principalities. In the archangels last, the playful angels. These orders all direct, ecstatically, their eyes on high and downward. They exert such force that all are drawn and draw to God. And Dionysus, with much longing, set himself to contemplate these orders. He named and distinguished them just as I do. Though later, Gregory disputed him. When Gregory came here, when he could see with opened eyes, he smiled at his mistake. You do not need wonder if a mortal told such secret truth on earth. It was disclosed to him by one who saw it here above. Both that and other truths about these circles. Yeah. Canto 29, Paradiso. As long as both Latona's children take, when covered by the ram and scales, they make their belt of the horizon at the same moment, to pass from equilibrium, the zenith held in balance, to that state where, changing the hemispheres, each leaves that belt. So long did Beatrice, a smile upon her face, kept silent, even as she gazed intently at the point that overwhelmed me. Then she began, I tell, not ask, what you now want to hear, for I have seen it there, where in one point all winds and ubies end. Not to acquire new goodness for himself, which cannot be, but then his splendor might, as it shines back to him, declare, subsisto. In his eternity outside of time, beyond all other borders, as pleased him, eternal love opened to new loves. Nor did he lie. Before this, as if languid, there was no after, no before. They were not there until God moved upon these waters. Then form and matter, either separately or in a mixed state, emerged as flawless being, as from a three-stringed bow through an arrow spring, as a ray shines into amber. One moment. And as a ray shines into amber, crystal or glass, so that there is no interval between its coming and its lighting all, so did the three, form, matter, and their union, flash into being from the Lord with no distinction in beginning, all at once. created with the substances where order and pattern, the summit of the world, or those in whom pure act has been produced. And pure potentiality possessed the lowest part, and in the middle, act so joined potentiality that they never disjoined. For you, Jerome has written that the creation of the angels came long centuries before all else was made. But this, the truth I speak, is written by scribes of the Holy Ghost, as you can find it, if you look carefully, on many pages. And reason, too, can see in part this truth, for would not admit that those who move the heavens could, for long, be without their perfect task. Now you know where and when and how those loving spirits were created. With this, free flames of your desire are quenched. Then, sooner than it takes to count to 20, the large position of the angels violently disturbed the lowest of your elements. The rest remained, and they, with such rejoicing, began the office you can see. They never desert their circling contemplation. The fall had its beginnings in the cursed pride of the one you saw, held in constraint by all of the world's weights. Those whom you see in heaven here were modestly aware that they were ready for intelligence so vast, because of that good which had made them. Through this, their vision was exalted with illuminating grace and with their merit, so that their will is constant and intact. I would not have you doubt, but have you know surely that there is merit in receiving grace, measured by the longing to receive it. By now, if you have taken in my words, you need no other aid to contemplate. Much in regard to this consistory. Since on earth, throughout your schools, they teach that it is in the nature of angels to understand, to recollect, to will. I shall say no more, so that you may see clearly the truth that, there below, has been confused by teaching that is so ambiguous. These beings, since they first were gladdened by the face of God, from which nothing is hidden, have never turned their vision from that face, so that their sight is never intercepted by a new object, and they have no need to recollect an interrupted concept, so that below, though not asleep, men dream, speaking in good faith or in bad. The last, however, merits greater blame and shame. Below, you do not follow one sole path as you philosophize. Your love of show and thought of it so carry you astray. Yet even love of show is suffered here, with less disdain than the subordination or the perversion of the Holy Scripture. There, they devote no thought to how much blood it costs to sow in the world, to how pleasing is he who, humbly, holds it fast. Each one strives for display, elaborates his own inventions. Preachers speak at length of these. Meanwhile, the Gospels do not speak. One says that, to prevent the sun from reaching below, the moon, when Christ was crucified, moved back along the zodiac, so as to interpose itself. Who says so? Lies, for sunlight hid itself. Not only Jews, but Spaniards, Indians too saw the eclipse. Such fables shouted through the year from pulpits, some here, some there, outnumber even all the Lapos the Bindos Florence has. So that the wretched sheep in ignorance return from pasture, having fed on wind, but to be blind to harm that does not excuse them. Christ did not say to his first company, "Go and preach idle stories to the world," but he gave them the teaching that is truth. And truth alone was sounded when they spoke. And thus, the battle to enkindle faith, the gospel served them as both shield and lance. But now go, but now men go to preach with jests and jeers, and just as long as they can raise a laugh and the cowl puffs up, nothing more is asked. But such a bird nests in that cowl that if the people saw it, they would recognize as lies the pardons in which they confide. Pardons through which the world's credulity increases so that people throng to every indulgence backed by no authority. And this allows the Antonians to fatten their pigs, and others too, more piggish still, who pay with counterfeit, illegal tender. But since we have digressed enough, turn back your eyes now to the way that is direct. Our time is short, so too must be our path. The number of these angels is so great that there has never been a mortal speech or mortal thought that named a sum so steep. And if you look at which is revealed by Daniel, you will see that, while he mentions thousands, he gives no number with precision. The first light reaches them in ways as many as the angels to which it conjoins itself, as it illuminates all of them. And this is why, because affection follows the act of knowledge, the intensity of love's sweetness appears unequally. By now you see the height, you see the breadth of the eternal goodness. It has made so many mirrors which divide its light, but, as before, its own self still is one. I'm gonna take a quick bio break, and I'll be back in just a moment. I have to use the restroom. Alright, sorry for the delay. Ready to go on to Canto 30, Paradiso. Perhaps 6,000 miles away from us, the 6th hour burns, and now our world inclines its shadow to an almost level bed, so that the span of heaven high above begins to alter so that some stars are no longer to be seen from our deep earth. And as the brightest handmaid of the sun advances, heaven shuts off one by one its lights until the loveliest is gone. So did the triumph that forever plays around the point that overcame me, point that seems enclosed by that which encloses, fade gradually from my sight, so that my seeing nothing else, and love compelled my eyes to turn again to Beatrice. If that which had been said of her so far were all contained within a single praise, it would be much too scant to serve me now. The loveliness I saw surpassed not only by our human measure, and I think that, surely, only its maker can enjoy it fully. I yield. I'm defeated at this passage more than a comic or tragic poet has ever been by a barrier in his theme. For like the sun that strikes the frailest eyes, so does the memory of her sweet smile deprive me of the use of my own mind. From that first day when, in this life, I saw her face, until I had this vision, nothing could ever cut the sequence of my song. But now I must desist from this pursuit, in verses, of her loveliness, just as each artist who had reached his limit must. So she, in her beauty, as I leave her to a herald that is greater than my trumpet, which nears the end of its hard theme, with voice and bearing of a guide whose work is done again. From matter's largest sphere, we have now reached the heaven, pure light, light, the intellect, light filled with love, love of the true good, love filled with happiness, happiness surpassing every sweetness. Have you will seen both ranks of paradise, and see one of them wearing that same aspect which you will see again at Judgment Day. Like sudden lightning scattering the spirits of sight, so that the eye is then too weak to act on other things it would perceive. Such was the living light encircling me, leaving me so enveloped by its veil of radiance that I could see nothing. The love that calms this heaven always welcomes into itself with such a salutation, to make the candle ready for its flame. No sooner had these few words entered me than I became aware that I was rising beyond the power that was mine, and such new vision kindled me again, that even the purest light would not have been so bright as to defeat my eyes, deny my sight. And I saw that took a river's form, light flashing reddish gold between two banks, painted with wonderful spring flowerings. Out of that stream there issued living sparks, which settled on the flowers on all sides like rubies set in gold. And then, as if intoxicated with the others, they again plunged into the amazing flood. As one spark sank, another spark emerged. The high desire that now inflames incites you to grasp mentally the things you see, pleases me more as it swells more. But first, that you may satisfy your mighty thirst, you must drink of these waters. So did she, who is the sun of my eyes, speak to me. She added this: the river and the gems of topaz entering and leaving, and the grasses' laughter, these are the shadowy prefaces of their truth. Not that these things are lacking in themselves. The defect lies in you, whose sight is not yet that sublime. No infant who awakes long after his usual hour would turn his face toward milk as quickly as I hurried towards that stream, to make still finer mirrors of my eyes, bent down towards the waters which flow there, that we in them may find our betterment. But as my eyelids eaves drank of that wave, it seemed to me that it had changed its shape, no longer straight, its flow now formed a round. Then, just as maskers, when they set aside the borrowed likeness in which they hide, seemed to be other than they were before, so were the flowers and the sparks transformed, changing to such festivity before me that I saw clearly both of heaven's courts. O radiance of God, through which I saw the noble triumph of the true realm, give to me the power to speak of what I saw. Above on high, there is a light that makes apparent to the Creator, to the creature, whose only peace lies in his singing hymn. The shape which that light takes as it spans is circular, and its circumference would be too great a girdle for the sun. All that one sees of it derives from one light ray reflected from the summit of the premium mobile, which from it draws power and life. And as a hill is mirrored, waters at its base, as if to see itself, when rich with grass and flowers, graced so 1,000 tears that it towered above the light, encircling it, I saw, mirrored all of us who have one return above. And if the lowest rank ingathers such vast light, then what must be the measure of this rose where it has reached its highest leaves? Within that breadth and height, I did not find my vision gone astray, for it took in that joy in all its quality and kind. There, near and far do not subtract or add, for where God governs with no mediator, nothing depends upon the laws of nature. Into the yellow of the eternal rose, that slopes and stretches and diffuses fragrance of praise unto the sun of endless spring. Now Beatrice drew me as one who, though he would speak out, is silent. And she said, "See how great is this council of white robes. See how much space our city's circuit spans. See how our seated ranks are now so full that little room is left for any more. And in that seat on which your eyes are fixed because a crown already waits above it, before you join this wedding feast, shall sit the soul of noble Henry, he who is on earth. To be imperial, he shall show Italy the righteous way, but when she is unready, the blind greediness bewitching you has made you like the child who dies of hunger and drives off his nurse. And in the holy forum, such shall be the perfect prefect. And in the holy forum, such shall be the prefect then, that either openly or secretly he will not walk with Henry. God will not hinder him long within the holy ministry. He shall be cast down there, where Simon Magus pays. He shall force the Agonine deeper in this hole. Only 3 more cantos to go. Canto 31, Paradiso. So in the shape of that white rose, the Holy Legion was shown to me, the host that Christ with his own blood had taken as his bride. The other host, which, flying, sees and sings the glory of the one who draws its love, that goodness which granted it such glory. Just like a swarm of bees that, at one moment, enters the flowers, and at another turns back to that labor which yields such sweet savor, descended into that vast flower, graced with many petals, then again rose up to the eternal dwellings of its love. Their faces were all living flame, their wings were gold, and for the rest, their white was so intense, no snow could match the white they showed. While they climbed down into the flowering rose from rank to rank, they shared that peace and ardor which they had gained, with wings that fanned their sides. Nor did so vast a throng in flight, although it interposed between the candid rose and light above, obstruct the sight or splendor, because the light of God so penetrates the universe according to the worth of every part, that nothing can impede it. This confident and joyous kingdom, thronged with people both new and ancient times, turned all its sight and ardor to one mark. O threefold light that, in a single star sparkling into their eyes, contents them so, look down and see our tempest here below. If the barbarians, when they came from a region that is covered every day by hell ice, who wheels with her loved son, were, seeing Rome and her vast works, struck dumb when, of all mortal things, the latter end was the most eminent. And what amazement must have filled me when I to the divine came from the human, to eternity from time, and to a people just and sane from Florence came. And certainly, between the wonder and the joy, it must have been welcome to me to hear and speak nothing. And as a pilgrim, in the temple he had vowed to reach, renews himself. He looks and hopes he can describe what it was like. So did I journey through the living light, guiding my eyes from rank to rank, along a path now up, now down, now circling around. There I saw faces given up to love, graced with another's light and their own smile, and movements graced with every dignity. By now my gaze had taken in the whole of paradise, its form in general, but without looking hard at any part, and I, my will rekindled, turning toward my lady, was prepared to ask about those matters that inclined my mind to doubt. But where I expected her, another answered. I thought I should see Beatrice, and saw an elder dressed like those who are in glory. His gracious gladness filled his eyes, suffused by his cheeks. His manner had kindled what suits a tender father. Where is she? I asked him instantly, and he replied, that all your longings may be satisfied. Beatrice urged me from my place. If you look up into the circle that is the third from that rank which is the highest, you will see her on the throne her merits have assigned her. I, without answering, looked on the high, and saw that round her now crown took shape as she reflected the eternal rays. No mortal eye, not even one that plunged into deep seas, would be so distant from that region where the highest thunder forms, as there my sight was far from Beatrice. But distance was no hindrance, for her semblance reached me, undimmed by anything between. O lady, you in whom my hope gains strength, you who for my salvation have allowed your footsteps to be left in hell, in all the things that I have seen, I recognize the grace and benefit that I, depending upon your power and goodness, have received. Yeah, but Beatrice didn't follow you in hell. That was Virgil. This is Virgil, Eraser by you, Dante. Don't forget about Virgil. You drew me out from slavery to freedom by all those paths, by all those means that were within your power. Do, in me, preserve your generosity, so that my soul, which you have healed when it is set loose from my body, be a soul that you will welcome. So did I pray. Unlimited Blade Works. And she, however far away she seemed, smiled, and she looked at me, and she turned back to the eternal fountain. And he, the holy elder, said, that you may consummate your journey perfectly, for this both prayer and holy love have sent me to help you. Let your sight fly round this garden. By gazing so, your vision will be made more ready to ascend through God's own ray. The Queen of Heaven, for whom I am all aflame with love, will grant us every grace. I am her faithful Bernard, just as one who from Croatia perhaps had come to visit our Veronica, one whose old hunger is not sated, who, as long as it is shown, repeats these words in thought. O my Lord Jesus Christ, true God, was then your image like the image I see now? Such was I as I watched the living love of him who, in this world, in contemplation, tasted that peace. And he said, Son of grace, you will not come to know this joyous state if your eyes only look down at the base, but look upon the circles. Look at those that sit in a position more remote, until you see upon her seat the queen to whom this realm is subject and devoted. I lift up my eyes, and as that morning the eastern side of the horizon shows more splendor than the side where the sun sets, so as if climbing with my eyes from the valley to the summit, I saw one part of the farthest rank of the rose more bright than all the rest. And as on earth, the point where we await the shaft that Phaethon had misguided glows brightest, while to each side the light shades off. So did the peaceful oriflame appear, brightest at its midpoint. So did its flame appear on each side, taper off at equal pace. I saw around that midpoint festive angels, more than 1,000 with their wings outspread. Each was distinct in splendor and in skill. And there I saw a loveliness that when it smiled at the angelic songs and games made glad the eyes of all the other saints. And even if my speech were rich as my imagination is, I should not try to tell the very least of her delights. Nard, when he had seen my eyes intent, fixed on the object of his burning fervor, turned his own eyes to her with such affection that he made mine gaze still more ardently. I think we're close to meeting the big man. Canto 32, Paradiso. Though he had been absorbed in his delight, that contemplator freely undertook the task of teaching, and his holy words began. The wound that Mary closed and then anointed was the wound that Eve, so lovingly at Mary's feet, had opened and had pierced. Below her, in the seats of the third rank, Rachel and Beatrice, as you see, sit, Sarah, Rebecca, Judith, and the one who was the great-grandmother of the singer, who, as he sowed for his sinfulness, cried, Miserere mei. These you can see from rank to rank as I, in moving through the rows, from petal unto petal, give to each her name. And from the seventh rank, just as I did within the ranks above, the Hebrew women follow, ranging downward, dividing all the tresses of the rows. They are the wall by which the sacred stairs divide, depending on the view of Christ, with which their faith aligned. On one side, where the rose is ripe, with all its petals, are those whose faith was at pardon me. There, where the rose is ripe, with all its petals, are those whose faith was in the Christ to come, and on the other side, that semicircle whose space is broken up by vacant places, sit those whose sight was set upon the Christ, who had already come, and just as on this side, to serve as such a great partition, there is the throne and glory of the Lady of Heaven, and the seats that range below it. So, opposite the seat of the great John, who, always saintly, suffered both the desert and martyrdom and more than 2 years of hell, serves to divide, below him sit, assigned to this partition, Francis, Benedict, and Augustine, and others rank on rank, down to the center of this rose. Now you see how deep is God's foresight. Both aspects of the faith shall fill this garden equally. And know that there, below the transverse row that cuts across the two divisions, sit souls who are there for merits not their own, but with certain conditions, others in merits, for all of these are souls who have left their bodies before they had the power of true choice. Indeed, you may perceive this by yourself. Their faces, childlike voices, are enough, if you look well at them and hear them sing. But now you doubt, and doubting do not speak. Yet I shall lose this not. I can release you from the bonds of subtle reasoning. Within the ample breadth of this domain, no point can find its place by chance, just as there is no place for the sorrow, thirst, or hunger. Whatever you may see has been ordained by everlasting law, so that the fit of ring and finger here must be exact. And thus the souls who have precociously reached the true life do not, among themselves, find places high or low without some cause. The king through whom this kingdom finds content in so much love and so much joyousness that no desire would dare ask for more, creating every mind in his glad sight, bestows his grace diversely at his pleasure, and here the fact alone must be enough. And this is clearly and expressly noted for you in Holy Scripture, in those twins who, in their mother's womb, were moved to anger. Thus it is just for the celestial light to grace their heads with a becoming crown according to the color of their hair. Without, then, any merits in their work, these infants are assigned to different ranks. Proclivity at birth, the only difference. In early centuries, their parents' faith alone and their own innocence sufficed for the salvation of the children. When those early times had reached completion, and each male child had to find, through circumcision, the power needed by his innocent member. Guys, if you're uncircumcised, you're not going to get into heaven. But then the age of grace arrived, and without perfect baptism in Christ, such innocence was kept below in limbo. Look now upon the face that is most like the face of Christ, for only through his brightness can you prepare your vision to see him. I saw such joy rain down upon her, joy carried by holy intellects, created to fly at such a height, that all which I had seen before did not transfix me with amazement so intense, nor show to me a semblance that was so akin to God. The angelic love, who had descended earlier, now spread its wings before her, singing, Ave Maria, gratia plena. On every side, the blessed court replied, singing responses to his godly song, so that each spirit there grew more sincere. O Holy Father, who, for me, endure your being here below, leaving the sweet place where eternal lot assigns your seat, who is that angel who with such delight looks into your queen's eyes, into our queen's eyes? He who is so enraptured that he seems to be aflame. So, once again, I called upon the teaching of him who drew from Mary beauty, as the morning star draws beauty from the sun. And he to me, all of the gallantry and confidence that there can be in an angel or blessed soul are found in him, and we would have it so, for it was he who carried the palm below to Mary, when his God's Son wanted to bear our flesh as his own burden. But follow with your eyes even as I proceed to speak, and note the great patricians of this most just and merciful empire. Those two who, there above, are seated, most happy to be so near the Empress, may be likened to those two roots of this rose. The one who, on her left, sits closest, is the father whose presumptuous tasting caused humankind to taste such bitterness. And on the right, you see that ancient father of Holy Church, into whose care the keys of this fair flower were consigned by Christ. And he who saw, before he died, all of the troubled area of the lovely bride, all of the troubled era of the lovely bride, whom lance and nails had won, sits at his side. And at the side of Adam sits that guide under whose rule the people, thankless, fickle, and stubborn, lived on manna. Facing Peter, Anna is seated, so contented to see her daughter that, as Anna sings hosannas, she does not move her eyes. And opposite the greatest father of a family, Lucia sits, she who urged on your lady when you bent your brows downward to your ruin. But time, which brings you sleep, takes flight, and now we shall stop here. Even as a good tailor who cuts the garment as his cloth allows, and turn our vision to the primal love, that gazing at him you may penetrate as far as that can be his radiance. But lest you fall back when, even as you move your wings, you think you advance, you think that you advance, imploring grace through prayer you must beseech. Through prayer you must beseech grace from that from that one who had the power to help you. And do you follow me with your affection? So may my words and your heart share one way. And he began his holy supplication. Canto 33, Paradiso, the final canto. Virgin Mother, daughter of your Son, more humble and sublime than any creature, fixed goal decreed from all eternity, you are the one who gave to human nature so much nobility that its creator did not disdain his being made its creature. That love whose warmth allowed this flower to bloom within the everlasting peace was love rekindled in your womb, for us above. I apologize, I'm getting some hiccups. You are the noonday torch of charity, and there below, on earth, among the mortals, you are a living spring of hope. Lady, you are so high, you can so intercede that he who would have grace but does not seek your aid may long to fly but has no wings. Your loving kindness does not only answer the one who asks, but it is often ready to answer freely long before the asking. In you, compassion is, in you is pity. In you is generosity, in you is every goodness found in any creature. This man who, from the deepest hollow in the universe up to this height, has seen the lives of spirits one by one, now pleads with you through grace to grant him so much virtue that he may lift his vision higher still, may lift it towards the ultimate salvation. And I, who never burned for my own vision more than I burn for this, do offer you all of my prayers, and pray that they may not fall short, that with your prayers he may disperse all of the clouds of his mortality, so that the highest joy may be his to see. This too, O Queen, who can do what you would, I ask of you, that after such a vision his sentiments preserve their perseverance. May your protection curb his mortal passions. See Beatrice, how many saints with her, they join my prayers, they clasp their hands to you. The eyes that are revered and loved by God are now fixed upon the supplicant, showed us how welcome such devotions are to her. Then her eyes turned to the eternal light. There, do not think that any creature's eye can find its way as clearly as her sight. And I, who now was nearing him who is at the end of all desires, as I ought, lifted my longing to its ardent limit. Bernard was signaling. He smiled to me, to turn my eyes on high, but I was already doing what he wanted me to do, because my sight, becoming pure, was able to penetrate the ray of light more deeply, that light sublime, which in itself is true. From that point on, what I could see was greater than speech can show. At such a sight, it fails and memory fails when faced with such excess. As one who sees within a dream, later, that passion that has been imprinted stays, but nothing of the rest returns to mind. Such am I, for my vision almost fades completely, yet it still distills within my heart that sweetness that was born of it. So is the snow beneath the sun unsealed. So, on the light leaves beneath the wind, the oracles the Sibyl wrote were lost. O highest light, you, raised so far above the minds of mortals, to my memory give back something of your epiphany, and make my tongue so powerful that I may leave to people of the future one gleam of the glory that is yours. For by returning somewhat to memory and echoing a while within these lines, your victory will be more understood. The living ray that I endured was so acute that I believe I should have gone astray had had my eyes turned away from it. I can recall that I, because of this, was bolder in sustaining it until my vision reached the infinite goodness. O grace abounding, through which I presumed to set my eyes on the eternal light, so long that I spent all my sight on it. In its profundity I saw, ingathered and bound by love into one single volume. What, in the universe, seemed separate, scattered, substances, accidents, dispositions, as if conjoined in such a way that what I tell is only rudimentary. I think I saw the universal shape which that knot takes. Or, speaking this, I feel a joy that is more ample, that one moment brings more forgetfulness to me than 25 centuries have brought to the endeavor that startled Neptune with the Argo shadow. So was my mind, completely rapt, intent, steadfast and motionless, gazing, and it grew ever more enkindled as it watched. Whoever sees that light is soon made such that it would be impossible for him to set that light aside for other sight, because the good, the object of the will, is fully gathered in that light. Outside that light, what there is perfect is defective. What little I recall is to be told from this point on, in words more weak than those of one whose infant tongue still bathes at the breast. And not because more than one simple semblance was in the living light, at which I gazed for it. It always seemed what it was before. But through my sight, which as I gazed grew stronger, that sole appearance, even as I altered, seemed to be changing. Deep and bright essence of that exalted light, 3 circles appeared to me, and they had 3 different colors, but all of them were the same dimension. One circle seemed reflected by the second, as rainbow is by rainbow, and the third seemed fired, breathed equally by those 2 circles. How incomplete is speech, how weak when set against my thought. And this, to what I saw, is such. To call it little is too much. Eternal light, you only dwell within yourself, and only you know you. Self-knowing, self-known, you love and smile upon yourself. That circle, which begotten so, appeared in you as light reflected. When my eyes had watched it with attention for some time, within itself, colored like itself, to me seemed painted with our effigy, that my sight set on it completely. As the geometer intently seeks to square the circle, he cannot reach, through thought on thought, the principle he needs. So I searched that strange sight. I wished to see the way in which our human effigy suited the circle and found place in it. I think this aged quite poorly because I'm pretty sure that we learned how to square the circle. Get with the times, Dante. It's the 21st century. And my own wings were far too weak for that. But then my mind was struck by light that flashed, and with this light, received what it had asked.